movement and the Global Startup Battle. So there are 5 main tracks that are going to be happening, which anyone who participates can enter into. And one of the requirements is for you to put together a 90-second video pitch. 50% of your votes will be covered by your community. So you have to advocate for people to vote for your startup. The other 50% will be determined by the group of judges for each track. So the first track is the Champions track, so that's for the top 3 teams, so they can enter themselves into that. The second track is focusing on women, so it can be a startup led by a woman, or 50% women, or focusing on women, so to the ladies. The third track is looking at education empowerment, so any startup that tries to address some of the issues around education. Fourth one, we're looking at do it in kind. So that's looking more at the social entrepreneurial aspects. So is your enterprise something that can address health or the environment or something? And lastly, the innovators track. So one of the emails that you'll receive during the evening is one of the resources we've been given by the sponsors is a free.co website. So if you register during the weekend, you'll be able to develop a platform on the .co website. So anyone who develops their business on the .co website will be able to enter into the innovators track. Some of the prizes, particularly for the Champions track, will be a booth at the CES Eureka Park, which is somewhere in the States. You'll be able to attend a launch conference powered by .co, so they'll be paying for your costs to get there. You'll be having one-on-one mentoring sessions with international people. And you will get a trip to the UP Global headquarters and the legal startup kit at a global level. So those are some of the prizes for the main Champions track. I know that one of the judges will be Nas, I think, the hip-hop dude. I'm not a fan of hip-hop, but that guy. So just to give a special mention to some of our local sponsors, the UNDP, who has helped with this event, they are looking at supporting social innovations, and there's something that we'll be discussing tomorrow morning about the support they'll be giving anyone with a socially affiliated idea. And part of the mandate is innovation for development, so we'll hear more about that tomorrow. UMass, of course, for the internet. Thank you, Michelle and Goni. Dairy Board, Fateware, Spar, Celsius. We've got a legal firm, a local one, which will be donating a prize. And one of the startups that actually came from the last startup weekend, it was known as Combi Code. So they're the ones who were doing the scanning of your food. So if you find one of them, they'll be able to explain to you more about this new product that they have. Some of our global sponsors, we have AWS Activate. So each of you will be getting the following from each of them. You'll be getting $100 in AWS credits. So more information when you get the email, and the free.co domains. And you'll be getting a $300 cloud platform credit from Google for entrepreneurs. So you'll be able to use that during the weekend and beyond. You just have to register this week. Just some venue logistics. There's a bathroom downstairs and there's a mobile toilet at the back. And each team will have a war room inside to work from. So just a quick overview of tonight, particularly. We're going to go into pitching. People vote. We form teams tonight. Tomorrow people will be doing customer validation. And you have to build a minimum viable product of some sort, if possible, depending on what your startup is. And just to go into more detail, so basically mapping up your MVP, identifying who your customer is going to be, and any deliverables that you want for the weekend. Your mentors will help you through that. Going through Friday night and Saturday, you start working on market research, which is going to be the bulk of tomorrow. Refining that MVP, we have lunch, and 10 Diamonds will be performing tomorrow afternoon. We'll have customer validation. You keep building, figure out what your rollout strategy is, get your fans, customers validate, and you start working on your pitch prep for Sunday. One of the most important components of the weekend is learning how to develop a holistic business model. It'll be in the booklet that we've given you, and your mentors will be able to assist you with that. So for tonight, the pitch process is pretty simple. Anyone who has an idea can pitch. So we just all line up, and everyone has 1 minute to pitch. And at the end, just make sure you mention whatever name you have for your startup. Yes.
Doing a summary.
Okay. Oh yeah. So if you have anything that you would like to pitch, in your slide bag we put a big flip chart sheet, so you can start jotting down any like bullet points. Because we'll have, I guess, an idea marketplace. So once everyone has pitched, you'll be able to go through and vote for the ideas that you would want to work on. Here are just some frequently asked questions. Can I pitch something I've already started on? Usually, no. But a well-researched and vetted idea is usually advisable. Can you pitch 2 ideas? If you want. But usually, you should pick your favorite. But if there's one that you're really dying to do, then that's okay as well. If your idea isn't selected, then you'll have to join a team. I think it's important to remember it's not about the idea, but it's about the process. And can you still work? Can you still work on your idea if it's not selected? Yes, only if you have more than 2 other people who want to support your idea. And lastly, can you use pitch props? If you do have some, that's fine as well. So just the anatomy of the pitch, seeing as it is only 60 seconds, you just say, hey, my name is X. The problem I'm solving is X. My solution, and explain what you need to do this. So you need to try to keep this within your 60 seconds. Alright. So once we do the pitching, everyone will give you about 10 minutes for you to vote for the ideas that you have. So the onus is on you to try to sell your idea to everyone else. You will each get 3 tokens, which are in your swag bags, which you will stick on the flip charts. Alright. I think there's some important things to note when building your teams. I think it's important for us to realize that startups do fail sometimes, and it's okay. I think everyone always has this expectation that once you start something that it has to work, but it also depends on the process of you developing that startup, and I think that is the point of the weekend. So statistically, as scary as this may sound, 65% of all startups do fail. But I think it's a question of how you come about developing your idea. I think it's important to also have diverse skill sets. So if you can find people who are different from you in terms of what they do, I think that will add more value to your team. And there's no such thing as a CEO in a startup. So there's no boss. I think everyone should take the opportunity to lead within their team. One thing you should do before you leave tonight is that you can pick a work area. So there are rooms designated, war room 1 to 10. So you can just allocate your room and make sure you note that. So when you come back tomorrow, you have somewhere to work from. Just make a sign with your team name, numbers, and members you have, contact numbers. It's important that you share that tonight. And you should define your scope. So before you leave tonight, I think just do a bit of a brain dump of ideas around the idea you'll be working on. And assign roles. I think that's very important, so everyone's accountable for what they're supposed to do. Okay, so we'll be pitching soon. And I think just around the team formation, it's important to always have someone who's a creative or a designer, someone with some technical aspects, someone who's a domain expert, someone who can build websites, ideally, and the business-minded individual. So Saturday, before we go to Sunday, Tomorrow is going to be very hands-on. I think that's where the bulk of your work is going to be done. The mentors, I guess, will be able to help you kind of map that out, but I think you should also take some ownership of that as well. So I know with some of the groups last time actually went as far as Mbare to go find out information from who they thought was their niche market. And they spend most of the day there talking to people. So one thing I do encourage tomorrow is get out of the building and get information. So Sunday will be the day for pitches. So in the morning you'll get some time to kind of refine your findings, continue building what you were building, and you start working on the pitch. So just to get into a bit of the judging criteria before I end, there will be 3 aspects that the judges will be looking at. They'll be looking at validation, which includes... Okay. So we're looking at, did your team get out and talk to customers? Are you actually solving a problem? Because what tends to happen is that people say they have an idea, but is there really a problem that you're solving? Or this sounds really cool, like is this a cool app or a cool startup? Let's go back. We're looking at what's your clear value proposition? Like what value are you adding with your service or your product? And we're also looking at, did you identify a specific target market? The second aspect is on execution and design. So how did you work as a team? Did you work well? Do you have a prototype of some sort, whether it's a paper prototype or a website or something tangible, if you can? And do you have a minimum viable product to present? Even a demo, so anything's allowed. And design does matter. Is it a design that appeals to your target market? Lastly, you'll be looking at the business model, which is something that you'll be working extensively on tomorrow. So does your solution solve a core need? Why is it unique? And how is it different from any other business model that's been done before? What's different about it? What makes it innovative? And how will you differentiate yourself from the competition? So I think that's something you can also spend some time tomorrow. Once you come up with the idea, try and understand who your competitors are. So just wrapping up. So the pitch is on Sunday. You will have 5 minutes to pitch.
No.
And you, yeah?
Number 3.
3. Oh, okay. We've altered it to 3.
Yeah.
And we'll have more time for questions. So the pressure's on. The team should be ready to sit on deck and have their presentation ready. So if you have someone who's going to be sitting and controlling the PowerPoint or the demo, then that's also advisable. And the point of this weekend is to try to have fun as much as possible. It's experimental learning, so we encourage you to have as much fun as possible. I think just also moving forward, I think it's important for you to, or the opportunities that are available is that you can always organize something like this for your own community. It doesn't have to be a big event, but it's always good to get your community together to try out some of these things. And we hope to have one in Bulawayo next with Takunda. We hope to do something with the Bulawayo community, seeing as there seems to be a lot going on there. And I think there's a lot of other events happening at Area 46 and Luzinda Hub and who am I forgetting? Emerging Ideas, yes. Pitch nights every night. And then there's always something happening in Bulawayo as well. So I think it's important to just see what's happening with the rest of the community. Otherwise, I won't bore you any longer. I will now invite Takunda to come and give us a talk on his experience as a startup founder.
Thank you very much, Irene. How are we tonight? Interesting. So, the thing is, I'd actually come up with a very detailed presentation, about everything that happened, and then Irene told me that it's going to be 15 minutes, so I had to sit down, strip it down and sort of try and come up with like a minimum viable presentation. So that's sort of what we have here. So, but I'm Takunda Chingonzo. I'm based in Bulawayo. I'm a student at NAST, and I love solving problems. Last startup weekend, I had a huge argument with my mentor, because my mentor was like, Takunda, the thing is, you're not a techie, right? You are solving problems through technology. I was like, no, I know who I am. I'm a techie. And so it was through that entire process that I got to realize that it was essentially about how to solve problems and how to leverage on technology to do so. So the very first startup that I worked on was called New Lab Technology. We've changed the model, I think, about 4 times now. We're now known as the Startup Factory, because essentially what we do is we create companies. We look at problems, we identify solutions, we build teams around those solutions, and then hopefully they turn into sustainable startups. So why Neolab? So it all started when I was in part 1. I just recently gotten into uni, and like most people in Zimbabwe, we tend to do the program that other people thought was good for you. So I was there, I was frustrated, I wasn't doing what I wanted. And so the first part, to be honest, it was an act of rebellion. I was like, you know what? This is what I wanted to do. And so I'll keep on doing it whether you guys think it's correct or not. The second reason why we actually started Lab was because we were frustrated by the service that we were getting. Most of us know how frustrating it is to try and access the internet, and that's why I'm thankful that Michelle is here. It's pretty exciting. So there was that part, and the third part was essentially about trying to beat the system. Maybe it's one of those rebellion kind of things, but that was the whole point. So part 1, then I met with my co-founders Jabulan and Blessing. Blessing was doing architecture, Jabu was a developer. And I remember we started by talking about how we could stream TV across student residence, right? And so, there were all these crazy ideas, and that's what we were trying to do. And we didn't want to really pay for 6, 7 different DSTV subscriptions. And so we actually built a solution around that. Of course, there were challenges to do with it, but that's exactly how Neolab was born. So we would meet almost every morning, and we'd talk about, what's going on in Zimbabwe, what do you think about this and that, and it was always a matter of, what if we could do this, this and that, and what if we could do that and this? And that's essentially how it came about. And it was through the process of trying to, solve problems, doing things that we loved, that all of this came about. So those days, I remember I was trying to focus on what people call success, right? When you read blogs and you read articles, you're told about this interesting formula, right? You need a team, right? And then you need a brilliant idea, and then you go through the motions, and before you know it, it's an IPO, and you're exiting, and you're a billionaire, right? And so that's essentially what we thought, and I felt, and we all believed, right? So my routine usually every morning was, I would wake up, go through the motions, get onto YouTube, find some inspirational Steve Jobs video, and get all psyched up about being the square pin in the round hole and all of that, and would then go out and start trying to work. And so that was the first formula that I came across. The team, we had Java and Blessing. We had amazing ideas, like industry-changing ideas, and of course the awesome inspirational, motivational videos, the likes of Steve Jobs. And this was somehow supposed to equate to success. What I quickly learned was that in most of these blogs and documentaries and things like that, they forget to mention what really goes on behind the scenes. They talk about, how somehow I found this idea and it was inspiring. It was like it came from the clouds, and all of a sudden, we're the team, and then the investors came from nowhere, and all of a sudden, the product is working. In most cases, it doesn't happen that way, and we essentially had to learn the hard way. So we were students, right? We tried raising money. People were like, hey, student, it's good, it's amazing, I like you guys, but we don't believe that you can handle finances. It was frustrating because with this vision, we wanted to change the world, And we went through these motions, and we realized that the only way that we could actually do this was to try and, find or create our own funding. So we created an entire model where we had smaller projects that would generate revenue that would spill into the bigger, world domination, shall I say, kind of project. And so the first one was, it was a platform which we called NeoWorks. So the thing is, we were all in student residence, and the problem was because we were so passionate about what we were doing, we would literally spend night upon night in one person's room. And for a good number of reasons, that was not very healthy. And so we sat down and said, guys, do you know what we need to do? Let's create a system that can help us work from wherever we are. So we sat down, Javi is an amazing developer, and we created NeoWorks in one night, right? It was a collaboration platform. We put in the features and everything, the branding, the etc. It was amazing. And we were using it, right? The whole team was happy. And then we thought, how do we monetize this? We went out and we started talking to people about collaboration. I remember it was 2012, we actually entered the Tech Zim Challenge. We got an interesting response from Limbikani. But the whole lesson was that we had built an amazing product with tons of features. The integration, it was amazing. But we had spoken to nobody about this. And so people were like, yes, the concept is good, but I would want to use it if it does this, or if it does, if it did that differently. And so that was the first learning point, to say, as much as we love to over-engineer, in Zimbabwe with brilliant minds, we need to first understand what people want. Right? So the second product, which is actually on the screen, that's the one that's on the screen. We called them laptops. It was customized vinyl that we imported from Germany, and we got the printers. And what we offered people was a way to protect your laptop from bumps and scratches and things like that. Right? How many of us know of the HP 635? Right. If you know that machine, and that's like the most common student machine, the problem with that machine is after the first week, it looks like a 3-year-old machine. Because when you're putting it in the bag and you're putting it out, all of a sudden the zip is scratching it and it just looks ugly, right? And so we created this product for the students, and we thought the only way that this would work is if we allowed people to put whatever they wanted on the laptop, right? And so that was the offering. We're like, we'll print whatever you want, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, whatever it is, we can do it, right? And I'm not sure if we have a lot of designers in here, but the problem with design clients is today they'll tell you, I want the moon and the stars on a black background. You spend the whole night on Photoshop doing that. The next one is like, no. Let's move the stars to the left and then have the sun and not the moon. Things like that. And this was for a very low cost product. And the lesson that we learned from that was, it's not always a good idea to give the customer, unlimited options. Most people, and Steve Jobs I think said this, that the customer in some cases doesn't know what they want. And so the team is actually relaunching the product this year. It was very frustrating. People wanted to quit, it was just chaotic. So it's being relaunched I think beginning next year. It's going to be called FlexiFit. It has a bit of improvement and limited options, most importantly. Right. And so we went through this, the process of creating startups that failed and projects that we thought were going to be glamorous and amazing, but they all crashed and burned because of these few concepts that we needed to learn. And so it has been through all of this that we've come to realize, how exactly we should start, and that is where the Startup Factory is coming from. So in May we decided to come to Startup Weekend, because we still had the original problem. We were working on thousands upon thousands of ideas. Today, we're thinking about an application that does this and that. Tomorrow, we have this other service. And the day after, because we had this other problem, we had so many ideas, right? And so we said to ourselves, Jabu, let's go to Startup Weekend and let's pitch different ideas, right? So we had about, I think it was 4 or 5 for 4 team members. They came through and we all pitched. The whole reason why we pitched all those ideas was we're now trying to look for that validation. Startup Weekend, you get people who are interested in tech, people who are going to be honest about your idea, and you get honest feedback. And so we pitched, we got into different teams, it was frustrating, but we learned quite a lot. And so, I'm not sure if you could tell, we were stressed about it, we'll start working, man, how are we doing here? Do this, just stop this and leave, But it was going through those motions that we got to understand which product works and which project doesn't. Those were around last Startup Weekend. I remember, I think, one of our team members pitched Roommate, and of the products that we were working on, it was one of those that got the highest form of validation. And so we used that to prioritize our energy and to focus on something that was, really important. The other startup that we've been working on, of course, is Wi-Fi Wireless. We're essentially trying to liberate the internet. There's been a few challenges. Certain people don't like what we're doing, but we want to continuously talk to them. It's pretty interesting. And this has been the entire process. So we went through Startup Weekend, we didn't win, but we continued working. I think Jabu was pitching NeoWorks, If you remember? Yeah, that was the product. It's very difficult for a designer or a developer to give up on a product. They're like, no, I have this idea, I know it will work, I just need to change a few things and it will work, So that's the process that we essentially went through. Now, from there, we've learned how to create the team, how to start up, how to validate, all those motions, right? I had the opportunity to then travel to the US, where I was reminded by a very powerful man that it's important to introduce yourself before you start talking about this. So did I introduce myself? Because it's now one of those things that's like really scary. So anyway, after that whole ordeal, I had the opportunity to work at a VC firm called Base Ventures. I think it's the only African-American VC firm in the Valley. Right? So these guys, they're amazing, and the office was crazy. But I remember the first experience that I had was when I was pitching to the managing director there. It's called Eric. So I got there, I was like, so this is what I'm working on. It's called this, and it does this, and it does that, and it does this. And then he stopped me, I was like, okay, so basically what you're building is X that does Y and Z. And this was after like 15 minutes of trying to convince him. And I was like, yes. You see, it's one of those problems that I've realized that as startup entrepreneurs, we tend to want to try and convince people that what we're working on is amazing. And so we spend a lot of time trying to describe something that is very simple. I remember in May, when I was told that the first pitch was 1 minute, I was like, guys, what do I talk about in 1 minute? But that's exactly what is expected from us. I attended a good number of like demo days. I think there was one startup weekend as well. And half of the people used this very simple way of introducing the idea. It's either we're the Uber of this and that, or the Airbnb of that. And I remember one of our teams, when they got that referral from a previous competition, they're like, no, that's not what we are like. We are working in this direction. I believe the whole reason why people do this is, when you say it that way, people tend to then give you the accreditation and the level of innovation that, in this case, Uber has, right? Now, this is all well and fine. On the other hand, I've also met a good number of people who try and overcomplicate, is it the elevator pitch or the 1 minute pitch, right? So, an example that I got online was, so we're pivoting to monetize mobile, hyperlocal, social gamification by going viral in the cloud, right? That's the other extreme as well. And it's one of those things, because we're engineers or we're developers, we really want to show these people that, we got this, we know exactly what we're talking about. And so those are some of the experiences that I've had, in trying to start up. To say, you need to find like a medium. You need to make sure that people get you in the first 2 or 3 seconds of your pitch, otherwise you lose people altogether. And it's one of those lessons that I, keep to heart. Now, ever since I got back in September, so we've been going through the motions. I mean, we've startups, we're trying to talk to investors, we're trying to do all of this, right? I realized something that was very important that I sort of skipped, in this entire process. Most competitions, most programs, most accelerators or incubators teach you the basics, right? How to be a lean entrepreneur, how to use the business model canvas, and so even our packs have most of this literature. And we're getting to a point where literally everybody understands these things. But somebody approached me and said, Chike, do you know the first startup that any entrepreneur has to be successful at is the startup of themselves? I was like, dude, what are you talking about? He was like, no, you see, in as much as we are not a service or a product or whatever it is, people are working on careers, people are trying to work on this and that. It is important for people to first try and use the basic principles that they learn to their social and personal lives. So I was thinking about this, and I sat down and I said, okay, fine, let's try it, right? I pulled out the business model canvas, and I asked myself, what is my value proposition? And I thought, let's sketch it out, and then, what's my customer segments and etc. And I realized that the more I did this about my life, the simpler everything got, right? As entrepreneurs, when you start up, 90% of your time you're spending it, focusing on your idea, on your business, whatever it is, right? That's the rest of your life tends to suffer, Most of us have been dumped, got our heart broken. We're like, no, what? I'll keep doing this for the love of, my idea. When I, go public and when I become a billionaire, they will remember, kind of thing. But when you use resources like the business model canvas and apply these concepts to your own life, then it almost becomes a natural extension of yourself. So when you're now trying to work on a service that does this and that, you're simply extending your own personality. And I think this applies to literally any other situation in life, right? You go for a job interview, what's really happening there is they don't care about your credentials. They are looking for what value you bring to their company, right? And so that's what you're trying to convince them in that entire interview. When it comes to the social elements, I mean, you approach a girl and you talk to them, she's looking at what value you bring to her life, right? And maybe your value proposition is not scalable, and so 3 to 6 months later, you're being told, no, I don't feel it anymore, the chemistry is gone, and things like that, right? It's that application of these basic principles. So in as much as we're going to have 3 startups that are going to win by Sunday, I would like to see 60 different startups leaving this place. The startup of yourself. It is important for us to get these concepts and understand them, and that is what we're now trying to model our entire training course at New Level around. To say we need to first turn you into a startup before you get to work on a startup. Thank you.
Thank you, Taku. Before you leave, does anyone have a question for Taku or Chi? This is your chance. Guy at the back.
What did you learn from Barack Obama?
Here, talk about this. Another one.
Hello. Okay, so this is what happened, right? An hour before the presentation, the scary guys came and they're like, you know what, we're out of time. The presidents are talking too much. We have to scrap this. Like, what? Guys, they're already talking to Peter about this and all of that. What's happening here? And so there was a lot of commotion backstage, right? And then they said, you know what, okay, we're going to cut it down to like 15 minutes. You do your thing, but instead of 6 questions, ask 3 questions. I was like, okay. I spent the last 3 days not sleeping, condensing everything into these 6 questions. President Obama comes and is like, oh, young man, how are you? I'm like, hello, sir, how are you? He's like, no, come here. We need a photo. No. Everybody was like, make sure you get a selfie, make sure you get a selfie. President was like, Tia, come here, we should get a photo. I'm like, oh, okay. We stand there, we get a photo. He's like, no, young man, make sure, don't be too hard on me. Just have fun. I'm like, okay, so this is the president who's telling me to have fun. Interesting. One thing that I learned about leadership from that basic experience was that leadership should not become a title. You shouldn't become one of those CEOs who comes up and when you walk in, you have tons of people who are just pushing everyone out of the way, and you have that amazing chair that's up there. Becoming a leader has to mean that you don't change who you are. Yes, you get more responsibilities and all of that, but let's not become very, very pompous. It's unlike what we have experienced in Africa. When a leader arrives, you know that this is the leader. He's like, hey, everyone, sit down, whatnot. But this was the most powerful man in the world, presumably, who was joking around with a 21-year-old kid. That says a lot, and that's something that I believe we'll take to the grave.
Thank you, Taku. A round of applause. Oh, another question? Okay, one more question. Don't ask about sanctions.
There are questions that I'm running away from.
So about those sanctions.
No.
I'm kidding. Anyway, just actually related to that, my chief just gave me the idea. I wasn't going to ask about that. When you're condensing that question, how did you at some point think maybe I shouldn't ask it because how it could be spun back home to start with? And then the original question I wanted to ask is what were you told us a lot about what you learned on your trip, but what did you go there and impart knowledge about Zimbabwe on, and what do people that you interacted with know more about Zimbabwe that they didn't know before?
So the first question, so when I was told the news, I was like, so yeah, you're going to interview the person. I was like, what? The first question that popped into my mind was like, it was essentially, should I ask the question or should I not ask the question? And so I spent 3 days pondering on that. I'd like to thank Sir Nigel, I'm not sure if he's still here. Yeah, so I was like, Sir Nigel, here's the problem. Should I ask this? And I was like, okay, let's ask Zimbabwe, And so Sir Nigel had an entire Twitter session about what should you ask this guy, and I got the feedback. And from what people were talking about, I realized, to be honest, this is an opportunity that you don't get every day. It's necessary to ask the question. So we asked the question. in a more ingenious way. The second part about what people learned or what I took there. So what used to happen was I was working at a VC firm, right? Base ventures. So we would go and meet other VCs, like their co-investors and things like that, right? These guys would be like, oh, so where are you from? Like, I'm from Africa. Right? I'm like, okay, so where are you from? Like, Zimbabwe. It's like, oh, is that near Kenya? I'm like, no, it's like down. Like next to oh, South Africa. Like, okay. So what's going on in Zimbabwe? You know, the bottom line is I spent most of my time trying to educate people to get them to understand that there's a lot of stuff that's happening in Zimbabwe. You know, it's not just Ghana and Nigeria and Kenya where we have startups, right? Then by the end of the 2 months, most of these VCs were sending emails. They're like, okay, so like what's hot in Zimbabwe? Is it healthcare? What's healthcare like? You know, I know you guys have been doing this USSD thing. Like, how is it working? Must be adoption. But everyone knows M-Pesa. Nobody knows. Okay, people know, but they don't really know that there is like mobile money everywhere. So they're like, okay, so what are the implications? Like, Bitcoin, you know, because we're like going crazy about Bitcoin here. What's the adoption? And I'm like, yeah, we're slowly getting there. We're not yet. And so I know of a few firms that are actually raising a fund that's Africa-centric, and most of these guys actually want to invest in Zimbabwe. I think that has been the one thing that I tried to push out there to say, look guys, this is what has been happening. The problem is that Zimbabwean startups are not visible. You see, try and Google top 10 startups in Zimbabwe. You'll get a certain listing, but you won't get links to where those startups are. No websites, no nothing, right? When people ask me, they're like, okay, so I was trying to look up, what's going on, where the startups? I'm like, yeah, most of them are in stealth mode. Yeah, they haven't really, they haven't put it out there, but they're working on it. IP issues, things like that. But that's the problem that we need to solve. We need to become visible. Because people are interested in investing in, amazing startups from Zimbabwe and all these countries, but we are not, visible.
Last question.
Irene is about to kill me. I told you 15 minutes.
Last one.
Okay, last one will be mine. So I'm going to have to progress into two. One is going to be a semi-statement. First question, have you monetized your startups?
Okay. With regards to that, yes, that's what we're working on. It's a very interesting debate that we'll probably have to say most startups are forced to get to profitability first because there is no other form of investment. So we essentially work from the get-go with the whole point of monetizing as soon as possible. So yes, we have.
Okay. Second one, observation question. Have you and your colleagues actually sat down and do you have the same vision? Because you've got 3 different people. And when I say vision, I don't mean about taking over the world, etc. But ultimate outcome. Some people are driven by money, some people are driven by fame, some people are driven about changing the world. And why I'm saying that is because in all the startups I've been in, the ones that have failed are where you don't sit down and say, why are we in this and what are we actually doing this about?
So with the 3 guys that run the photos, we've been together for 2 years. I've been with Jabu for 6 years, right? But even irrespective of that, we sat down at the beginning, we talked about it to say, okay guys, why are we doing this? We are human beings and human beings have to eat. It's a fact. In as much as we might sit down like, no, we want to change Zimbabwe and we want to be all these amazing visionaries. I always ask people to be as frank as possible, right? So we've had the conversation, and it goes beyond just the conversation. You get opportunities. We went to Demo Africa and I was still in the States, so I had to have Jabu and Martin go to Demo Africa, right? It's through experiences like that you get to understand what people are really about, right? Most of us as founders want to be like, yes, there's a competition, I'm going, right? And there's a presentation, I am going to